Your next para explanation. I stopped dead, taking him in. I wasn't a bit afraid, I was surprised and interested. I supposed he realized I was there. He turned and I saw the face of a young man. We stood and regarded one another. Then he turned around and drew himself up, raised his arms and came towards me. His little jaw dropped and he emitted a faint drawn boo. I was not frightened. Boo, I said. Nonsense, you don't belong here. What are you doing? He moved a little and said, I am a ghost. Then, confused and awkward, I am haunting, he said. There may be, but you can't haunt here. This is a club. People often come here with the children. Some poor little child could be scared of our wits. I suppose you didn't think of that. No, sir, he said. I didn't. Coming here was a mistake, I said, in tone of friendly superiority. If I were you, I would vanish right away. He looked frightened. The fact is, sir, that somehow I can't. You can't? No, sir. I have been here since midnight. There is some little thing that he has slipped me, and I can't get back. Come into my room and tell me more about it, I said. I tried to take him by the arm, but of course you might as well have tried to hold off a puff of smoke. Here we are, I said and sat down. In the chair in my room, sit down. So in this para, the Clayton has described about the encounter with the ghost, and first when the ghost became conscious of the Clayton, and then the ghost tried to frighten the Clayton. Then the ghost spoke boo, but the Clayton didn't frighten, and he seemed interested in the ghost. Then the Clayton suggested the ghost that he shouldn't be there because that was a club and because many people come there along with their children, and if the children would see the ghost and then the children feel frightened. But the ghost told a very different tale, and the ghost told that he had come there by mistake because he has forgotten the movement of his arms and hands and he won't disappear from there. So it was not his conscious effort, it was by his mistake. So that's why the ghost has come here, and after that the Clayton offered the ghost that he should come along with him in his room. Then the Clayton tried to touch the ghost with his hand, but the Clayton tells that it was like a puff of smoke because the we know the ghosts are not physically present, they are just like air. So when the Clayton tried to touch the ghost, it then the Clayton that it seemed to Clayton that he was touching some smoke or like puff of smoke. Tell me about it. He said he would prefer to flit up and down the room if it was all the same to me. There he was, semi transparent, noiseless, except for his ghost of a voice, flitting to and fro in that nice, clean old bedroom. You could see the gleam of the copper candlesticks through him, and there he was telling me about his life that had recently ended on earth. And where are you now? I asked, not in. He wasn't clear at all. Whenever he was, they seemed to think haunting a tremendous adventure, and so he had come. The mess he had made of haunting had saddened him terribly. He had expected it to be fun. I got up basically, don't brood on these things too much. I said, you have got to pull yourself together and try. And try he did. A complicated series of gestures and movements with the hands. That's how he had come in, and that's how he had to get out again. After a fearful time, he got his movements right and suddenly disappeared. It was tremendous. There we were, this thin ghost, and I in that silent room. In this club, not a sound except our voices. There was one candle on the dressing table alight. That was all. I can't, he said. I shall never, and suddenly he sat down. So, in this next para, the writer has described that he had, after coming to his room with the ghost, then the writer motivated the ghost that he should try uh, to remember the last movements of his hands or the arms by which he could disappear or vanish from there. But the ghost had forgotten, and first ghost told the Clayton that because he had come there for haunting, because haunting means just wander aimlessly here and there, and first ghost thought that it would be adventure for them, and because uh, for the adventure he had come there, and now he won't be able to go back. So that made the ghost melancholic, and that made the ghost very much upset, because he won't be able to go back, and because at that time he wanted to go back to the dark world from where he had come. But the writer inspired the ghost that he should try, and then the ghost started trying, and whether that whether the ghost would be able to remember the movement of his hands or arms, and we will get to know in the next para. The foot of the head and began to sob. You have to pull yourself together, I said to him, and try. And to encourage him, I began to try as well. At last he did it. I know. He said, what do you know? Said I. I know. He repeated. Then he said peevishly, I can't do it if you look at me. I really can't. I am nervous fellow. Well, we had a bit of argument. Naturally, I wanted to see him, but he was as obstinate as a mule. All right, I said, I won't look at you, and turned towards the mirror by the bed. He started off very fast. Round went his arms and hands. And then, with a rush, came the last gesture of all. You stand erect and open out your arms. And he stood. And then he didn't. I wheeled around from the looking glass to him. There was nothing. I was alone. What had happened? Had I been dreaming? And then the clock upon the landing struck one ping. Then you went to bed? Asked Evans. What else there was there to do? And about these moments, said Sanderson, I believe I could do them now. Why don't you do them now? Said Sanderson. That's what I'm going to do, said Clayton. You know, I would rather you didn't, said Wish. So, in this next para, the Clayton has described that he had motivated the ghost to remember the last movement of his arms and the hands, and the ghost immediately remembered that if the Clayton would keep on watching the ghost, watching him, and he won't be able to disappear or vanish from there. Then the Clayton turned his face towards the mirror, and then the ghost disappeared from there immediately. Then his friends, Sanderson, one of his friends of Clayton, Sanderson, asked Clayton that what did he do after disappearing the ghost, whether he had gone for sleeping. Then the Clayton answered that it was obvious that he had gone for sleeping, or what else and Sanderson was expecting from him, because at that time 1 o'clock and midnight was struck, and so he went to sleep. But the wish was too much frightened at a time because he started believing the story told by the Clayton. Clayton, said I, you are a very good liar. That experience happened to be convincing. Clayton stood up for a moment. He regarded his feet, he raised his two hands slowly and smiled at us all. But I think there was just a little hesitation in his smile. If I begin, he said. I won't begin, said Wish. It's all right, said Evans. This sword is not going to snatch Clayton into the world of darkness. Wish stood up and put his arms on Clayton's shoulder. You have made me believe the story somehow. I don't want to see the thing do. I don't want to see the thing done. Goodness, said I. Wish is frightened. I am, said Wish. I believe that if he goes through these motions, he will go. He will do nothing of the sort, I cried. Clayton smiled back at him. Wish, he said, is right and others are wrong. I shall go, I shall get to the end, and as the last swish whistles through the air, this room will be vacant. You will be amazed, and a young gentleman will jump into the world of darkness. I am certain. Let the thing be tried. No, said Wish, and stopped. Clayton raised his hands once more to repeat the ghost's movements. By the time we are all tensed, largely because of Wish, we sat with our eyes on Clayton. Clayton bobbed and swayed, waved his hands and arms before us. The last gesture. So in this para, I will describe you that the ghost has disappeared from there, but one of his friends of Clayton Wish starts believing the story or the tale told by the Clayton, but the rest of friends doesn't believe that the story told by the Clayton is true. So Clayton stands up. Then Clayton thinks that his friends start believing the story if he would disappear from there. Clayton stands up and he declares his friends that he is going to imitate the movements of arms and hands as the ghost had done one night before, and he would also disappear from there. Wish also stands up and he wants to stop the Clayton from disappearing from there. But the other friends, on seeing the Wish when he stands up to stop the Clayton, they also become tensed. So last para is left. In the ending, we will get to know that Clayton is going to be successful into entering the dark world or not, or he would declare to his friends that it is going to be just a funny story or not.